Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 32 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and sorry that it's been a little while between this show and the last show, but I'm back, and today I have with me the one and only Terri Hardin. Hey, Terri.
Hey, what's happening, James?
Not much. How's your day going?
Oh, it's great. It is really, really lovely. It's nice to see things begin to slowly open up during the pandemic. So maybe we're gonna beat this thing and get past it so that we can, whatever normal's gonna look like afterwards, that we can get back to seeing people.
Yeah, well, I'm finally getting my
Yeah.
first dose of vaccine this week.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is a topic. That's like the main topic. And if you don't ask someone if they've been vaccinated, I had some friends who went to a party, which why are you going to a party? But they went to a party and they were sitting with people without masks. And then they realized these people, none of them been vaccinated. So now my friends had to isolate, and because they had been vaccinated, but when you're in the middle of that, if you've got high risk, you just have to, that's the biggest challenge, is people are so wanting to get back into chatting with people face to face that forget themselves. So most of the time it's, oh yeah, my mask, stuff like that, as opposed to, I won't wear a mask, it's controlling me, or whatever they say, So yes, so thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be chatting with Nova Scotia and parts in that direction.
Oh, well, it's great. Exciting. It's great to be chatting with LA. I have a lot of guests that come on from LA. The last guest I had on was Lou Berger. I don't know if you know who that is, but he was head writer of Sesame Street, and he was in LA at the time. He lives in New York, and I was like, man, I am so jealous of people who are fully vaccinated in the States.
Yeah. I know.
Because I like so many people I know in the States. It's like, okay, I'm fully vaccinated, and I'm like, lucky you. Thank you for flaunting that.
Exactly. Well, my high risk. So we were in the car when he got his first vaccine, and I kept trying to talk the nurse into giving me one too. And she's like, no, only high risk. It was the one time he had to apologize for being healthy. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got to wait. I'm so, but yeah, we finally got it. California is between 60 and 80% completely vaccinated, which is an amazing number for California.
Awesome.
We're leading the other states. But the thing that's really weird is that California is desperate to open up, and it wants to open up June 15th. And the problem with that is that other states are struggling. So if people fly here, the big question has been, how do we keep these numbers good with people coming in if we open everything up on June 15th? And maybe we ought to think about that a bit. And right now they're saying, well, we're still going to ask people to wear a mask, and we'll give you the criteria for when you're fully vaccinated, how you can behave and stuff. But we still have to be careful, because it doesn't make you impervious. Bill Maher, who has a show on HBO, he was fully vaccinated, and he started to have full audiences in to watch his show, and he got COVID.
He got it?
Bill Maher got COVID, and he was fully vaccinated. So it's kind of a message, like, you still can get it. It hopefully won't be as bad. But the point is that it doesn't prevent it. It's like the flu. And with all the strains that are out there, you can also be a carrier. So it's good to be a bit cautious and do some of the things that the health department is saying. When you're vaccinated, don't get with people you don't know they've been. It feels really weird, James, to say, oh, I don't think I can get too close to you. I don't know where you've been.
Right.
Are you a party animal? We have to be careful.
Well, for the record, I am not a party animal. So
yeah, me in a party is sitting and watching, streaming a movie or something.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
there I am. Me, yay, me and my dog or whatever, and my husband. So you can get with people who that are also high risk. And the other day I was with two other people who we had masks off. It felt like a 4th of July celebration, because there had been nobody around for so long. To now have this opportunity was just so bizarre. So I think people need to realize that you're not going to cross over as though nothing had happened. It's going to be a really strange transition. And so, and just keep your temper and try to do your best, you know, because we're all pretty wired, and hopefully just remember you're human beings and be good to each other, and understand that grain of salt, because it's, some of these people out here are twisted so tight that you go, uh-oh, you know. So anyway, yay for you. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Anyone and everyone who gets that vaccine makes me feel a whole lot better, because it is the best way to go.
Thank you. All right, so let's get right into it. First question here is, what did you aspire to want to become?
When I was a kid?
Yeah,
I'm 64, so that's a big question.
Okay, yeah, like
I'm
what,
almost 64.
Yeah, well, like what were some, what, like was there anything that you were inspired by to do what it is that you're doing now, or was what you're doing now like as a Disney Imagineer and a puppeteer? I should have mentioned this in the intro, but Terri is a former Disney Imagineer and a puppeteer and artist, and as she said, she's a sculptor. And for in puppeteering, she's done a lot of work with the Muppets and on a show called The Puzzle Place, and she's done film work such as the Flintstones and the Country Bears, and also was on the series Dinosaurs. So was puppeteering and artistry like always your thing?
Well, when I was a little girl, so I mentioned I'm almost 64 years old. My birthday is going to be June 21st, and I can't wait. But when I was a little girl, I was born to a Black father and a white mother, so I'm mixed races. And back then, it was a very challenging time, especially since I have very, very light skin. So there were those challenges with bullying. And yeah, and I know that most of you out there can probably pick an incident where you were bullied. If you're not, I mean, I think people get bullied for, if the bully puts their sights on you, it could be because you're beautiful, because you're a jock, because you're not a jock, because you're odd, because you're, it can be for any reason. It's really more about the bully. So in my case, my hair stuck out in all directions, and it was blonde, and then I'm light skinned. I just did not look like people looked like. I looked so different. And my father said that poison isn't effective unless you take it. So the words that people would say to me and some of the behaviors that they would do to me, he'd say, chin up, kid, and you know, if you get in a scrap, you know, let them hit first and then you go for it, but whatever. So my mother was an artist, and my mother noticed that if she was 19 when she had me, which is like a baby having a baby. And then you've got this precocious June baby. June babies are extremely creative, and we're very curious. And we have, I believe, we have no fear. We want to see something, we just go for it. We have no idea that, you know. So long story short, I was kind of a fork in the light socket kind of a kid. Light socket, find a fork, put it in there, you know. And so my mother was like freaking out because she did not know how to contain this crazy child. So we discovered I sat still when she drew or painted. She's a watercolor artist, or she was. And I would sit still. So my father said, you know, hey, let's see if we get some drawing paper and we just sit it next to her. She'll stay put for you, and you can have like a less stressful day. And that's what they found. As long as they had paper, I would sketch and draw all day, and it kept me out of trouble. So
that's good then.
Yeah. When you're and also I think as a little kid, because I had such an imaginary world of my own, and a really great, strong confidence, because I have two parents that were pioneers. They fell in love at the time Rosa Parks was fighting for her seat on the bus. So they really were revolutionary parents. And so I grew up with some real go-getter type parents, even though my mother would say no right now, but my dad really was my rock and my hero. When I was a kid, I started to get bullied. People pulling my hair, people trying to beat me up, you know, the usual, shove you in a locker, all that stuff that makes you laugh. At 8 years old, not 8 years, in 8th grade, my hair was set on fire. I hated my hair. It just grew. It was just yellow, just bright yellow hair. And so some guy saw a match into it and said, hey, this looks good. And so I sat in my home, and one day I saw Sherry Lewis come on, and she had made a lamb chop sock puppet. I saw her lamb chop and Hush Puppy sock puppet. So I went into my room and I made a lamb chop puppet.
Oh, cool.
And that puppet became, at 6 years old, that puppet became my confidant. So when I couldn't talk to my parents, I could talk to this little puppet. And it was pretty, here's my hair. So that's what I'm talking about. Can you imagine being 6 or 7 and have hair that looks like that? You could be the object of ridicule. So it's just, thank goodness for dreadlocks. They're a lot easier to maintain. But the point is with white skin, and my dad's, African-American hair, it really did create change. So the puppet allowed me to have a confidant that I could talk to. And art became my way to excel. Theater, I won a lot of art contests, et cetera. And then I think your question, James, is, was there something that just sort of turned everything on its ear? So here I am, young with my neighborhood, and my neighborhood was kids on bikes, neighborhood kids always playing. Some of them were kind of mean to you, others were your best friends. And I made costumes for everybody in my neighborhood. I actually created costumes for, my sister wanted to be a telephone, the kind with the cradle. So I built that for her and stuff like that. It was maybe 8 or 9. And so I had all of this ability, creating, doing all this stuff, going through life. Somebody's telling you it's a hobby. What are you going to do for a living? As an artist, this can be very frustrating because everybody is so worried you're going to be broke. All right. Well, I made my first money at 8 years old because my parents weren't like that. They weren't like, didn't say, they said, whatever you want to do, as long as you keep going forward. And if you get kicked or you get knocked down, you have to say to yourself, am I getting up, or am I just going to lay here and wallow in my self-pity? So at 8 years old, we decorated Easter eggs. My mother sat me down and everybody's doing the Easter eggs, little loop in the different colors, just like you as a little kid. And these were the ones that I did at 8.
That looks cool.
Yeah, my mom takes them to her office and she sells them for $20 a piece. Nice. And I'm 8. So I ended up doing about 3 or 4 dozen for Easter at $20 an egg. So here I am, 8 years old, and I've got cash. And I say, if you talk to many Imagineers, you're going to find that somewhere in their childhood, we had this strange anomaly, this strange ability, this strange electrical. So if you're like a Bob Gurr who built most attractions that are mechanical in the original Disneyland here in Anaheim, he used to take toasters apart and put them together at about 10. But the other thing he did that drove his parents crazy is he would take a toaster apart and build something else that functioned. And he is one of the legends today at Imagineering. So if you get together with a bunch of Imagineers and you say, what did you do as a kid? You find out that we've done this really wild and crazy off the chain weird stuff. Like at 14, I did 128 gingerbread houses and custom boxes fully decorated for my friends from scratch. So we just explode with this art stuff. But where do we put it? You crazy kid that's creating all this cool art and your school is going, wow, she's amazing. And you're acting and you're performing and you're doing voices and you're doing puppets and you're doing all this stuff. And people are like, wow, she's amazing. But what do you do with it? And then when had several opportunities, when I graduated high school and went to college, there's a little film you may have heard of called Star Wars. And
Star Wars. No, I don't think I have heard of that.
Rings a bell,
before.
right?
Yeah.
I went and saw Star Wars, and like the scene in Jaws where Roy Shire is sitting in the chair. The boy gets attacked and the whole room stretches. He sits still while the room stretches around him. That happened to me of seeing Star Wars for the first time. And all of a sudden, all of this swirling atmosphere of all of my creativity came and went into my skull. Bam! And I saw exactly my career laid out before me. The chess set sequence where I had actually sculpted things. I had not done stop motion, but I had sculpted a lot of these little toys and things and done little quick stories with them. I had made puppets. I had made costumes. I saw it all come together. So now I got to get back in theater so I can write down what the credits are. I'm saying to myself, the credits are going to be the key. I got to find out where I can apply to this. But back then there was no internet. There was no social media. There was no these little phones that are giant computers that you put in your head. The phone that I used could double as murder weapons. You could actually pick up that, but this one, your phone's going to break. So we had none of that. We didn't have VHS, which was a tape. Any of the things I'm saying, just Google them. If you don't know what they are. But
what a VHS tape is.
VHS tape, cassette tape, all of these weird things that this old person is talking to you about is because this is my world. I want you to know. Newspaper, which if you don't know what that is, Google it. But the point is that I'm for the newspaper. And I realize, first thing I realized is I've got to get back in to see the film and everybody in the film. So I would get up early in the morning, get a ticket, I had a bag next to me, and I changed clothes and stayed the whole day. I would hide in the bathroom. And then when the next audience was brought in, totally illegal, by the way, I'm going to just confess, I would go and see the next movie and I wrote down every name and I did sketches, many of the characters, and I just made a plan. And I'm 17, 18 at this time. I'm making a plan. This is where I'm going to work. And started to reach out, look for these people in the newspaper, these names. And at one point I met Rick Baker, who did the cantina scene for Star Wars, and an amazing makeup artist who's won tons of Emmy Awards and a huge handful of Academy Awards, an amazing fellow. And he was speaking at a local college. So I had a car named Vader One. I like Vader One. I was totally obsessed. Those of you who love Star Wars, you know what I'm talking about. And so what happened was that I said, I'm going to sit, I'm going to talk to him. And one of the things I can tell you today, if you have a goal, something that's a lofty goal, don't let people tell you that you can't do it, number one. And number two, document all your work. It's a lot easier to document it today than it was when I was growing up. And that's not like me walking in the snow both ways. I had it much harder. That story. No. That's not the story. Okay. The story is that it is easier. And today, if you want to do something, you just create and you put it up. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you just start, YouTube, you just do it. And someone's out listening, they're going to come and they're going to talk to you. If they like what they see, they will approach you, because everyone in the entertainment industry is looking for the next thing, that next person. But you have to not only post your work, you have to post your dream as well. So if you are wanting to create attractions for parks like Disney, you need to create one, film it, or I guess record it. I say film it because that's what we did. But you record it, and then while you're posting it on Instagram, you talk about your vision. And you say, this is what I really want to do. Or if you're a concept artist, show your concept art. The nice thing about things like Instagram and all of these social medias is they're dated. They have dates. So if someone's going to take from you, you can prove because you have dates on these sites. So I tell people, don't worry about someone taking your work from you. I mean, I know there's some areas that people are very concerned about that, and it's something to think about. But the fact is, Disney is looking, and Henson's is looking, and everybody is looking to see that next best thing that they're going to invite you to be a part of. And the next thing you know, all you have to worry about is the audition process and what you're going to say is your price when you're going to do it. So Star Wars changed my life. And the next thing I know, I was working on a film. My first film was Dune, my first big film. My second one was Ghostbusters, the original.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And that was just amazing. I was working on Dune and building the still suits for Dune, along with a team of, I'd say there might have been about 10 or 12 of us working on these still suits for the characters. Here is a picture of my Wookiee.
Oh, I like that.
My 1977 Wookiee.
Looks a little bit like it looks more like a fur coat.
Yeah, it really does. And back then in 77, you had magazines. This is me as the Other Hope. So I'm dressed as the Other Hope after Empire, and I sculpted this with a pair of scissors. So he's my Yoda puppet. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I got a book coming out next year that really lays it out in detail, because my Star Wars obsession was such that it's been written up in magazines and books, and I had a huge collection. I sold for six figures because I collected a lot of stuff. So Star Wars it is still a major part of my history, but it catapulted me into doing films and puppets, and I did the Chicken McNuggets puppets for McDonald's when they were little puppets, and then they became CG. And yeah, so best to Google me if you want to know like everything that I do. Google me, and I tried to do a chronology of my work from when I was little to now, and it's like 20 pages long, single spaced. It's just shocking how much that I have created. So yes, that was the catalyst that shot me into things like Ghostbusters, where I did the face articulation of the Marshmallow Man and built Stay Puft with my friend Bryant, who was the one who designed it and was inside the suit, while several of us were outside the suit puppeteering the face. And then I played Terror Dog that Sigourney Weaver turned into. So all of a sudden there were these opportunities that the best thing to do is when a door opens, don't ask yourself, how am I going to do it? Just go through it and figure it out afterwards. Because if you don't play, you can't win. Like the lottery. If you don't play, you're not going to win the lottery. I'd love it if you didn't play and you won, but it just unfortunately doesn't work that way. So you got to jump through the hoop, and don't let yourself be the one person that tells you that you can't do it, because it's magical. And in '82, I met Jim Henson, and the next thing I knew, I was auditioning for shows like Dinosaurs and stuff. So yeah.
What was Jim Henson like? I always hear great things about him.
He's amazing. Okay. Just, it's, if you have a genius, pick the genius that you love for 10. The geniuses that you love, you want to know that they are friendly and kind, and not all of them are friendly and kind. Walt Disney was an amazing genius. We all know this, but a real taskmaster. And he was someone who really he was the man who brings the artists together and manages a company of a lot of creative people. But if you've ever experienced a lot of creative people in a room, you can have challenges with egos, or you can have, it's like herding cats. They can be easily distracted. They can go off on a tangent. They can explode with all this creativity. And it takes an incredible talent that Walt had to make all this come together and work. And one of the things that many legends who were designing Disneyland with him said was, he would walk up and say, I need something that rides in the air. Super futuristic, spacey, rides in the air. And then I want kids to be able to drive like a car as an attraction. And they would go, okay, well, how do you think we're going to do this? He'll go, you'll figure it out. And he walks away. And they would be like, what? Bob Gurr would always say, you're there. You don't want to disappoint. Well, how do we do this? So it's very interesting. Well, Jim Henson was another one. Jim Henson came up with Jane, and he fell in love with he started to do with his buddies got together and they started to do this little puppet show with Kermit the Frog and Fire and a few characters. Next thing you know, Sesame Street explodes, and he starts to do this Muppet show. He's a very friendly, fun, outgoing human being. But when he met Terri, it was kind of a weird little experience. I was in New York shooting a McDonald's chicken commercial. Why we were doing it in New York, I'm not quite sure, but we were there. And my Tony Urbano, who's really quite known in California, on the West Coast, he wanted to go to the opera. And it's like that scene you see where they ask for volunteers and the whole line steps back and there you are by yourself standing there looking like you stepped forward. And the puppeteers, all the other puppeteers vanished. And there I was by myself going, And Tony said, Terri, let's go. And I said, well, what's in it for me if I go with you to the opera? He says, well, what do you want? And I said, I want to go see Ha, which was Jim Henson Studios in New York. And he goes, you want to meet Jim Henson? And I said, well, I wouldn't mind meeting Jim Henson. True story, James. I wouldn't mind meeting Jim Henson. But what I really want to do is I want to see how they make Miss Piggy. Because I build tons of puppets. I don't know how they make Bunsen Honeydew and Miss Piggy. That's not fabric. I don't know what that is. I want to know what that is. So Tony says, okay, well, when we come up the stairs, we're going to be given a tour by Jane Henson, his wife. And she must have had something to do because Jim came around the corner. And it was just amazing. Here he comes walking around the corner. And it was like, oh my gosh, Jim Henson is walking towards us. And he fixates on me right away, like eyes to eyes are locked. And he walks right up to me past Tony and says, you are who? And I'm Terri Hardin. Well, the reason was because there were so few women back in 1982 that did puppets like we do puppets, where the puppets are heavy and you're holding them up above. They're not like foam and fabric you do in theater. Many of these can have mechanisms on them and weigh really heavy weights. So my terror dog took my whole body to operate. And it was probably about 10 pounds supported on the Gozer Gazarian set, but I still had to make the head move. So a lot of women weren't in there. So for every 30 men, there were about 3 women in the industry at that time. So that's why Jim locked onto me, because he was like, if she's with Tony, she's good, because he knew Tony. So he wanted to know who I was. And I've never met you before. And I said, no. And he said, tell me about yourself. And Tony got in between us and said, she's with me. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, because puppeteers, there are some that are actually, I don't really think they have like a contract. It's kind of like, I mean, this may have changed. I know when I did a movie, I had a contract. But like if you're, the way Sesame Street used to be is you were called, unless you were a lead, like Rosita and Cookie Monster and all of these characters, you were called like an extra. And so you might get the call 2 days ahead. Can you come in? We have a big crowd thing. So you were actually a group of people that when Henson needed somebody, they pulled you out of the box. They brought you together. They said, okay, which people will work good? And they'd call you. That left you free to do other shows, other puppet things if you want. And that's the way it worked with the Henson team. So I said, you know, once I was done with the McDonald's commercial, I was on my own to get more work. So I said to Jim, no, I'm independent. So he said, okay. So I go back home, and a couple days later, he calls me on the phone and he says, Terri,
nice.
This is Jim Henson. I don't believe him. I go, yeah, right. It's Jim Henson. He goes, no, really, it's Jim Henson. And I'm wondering if you want to come out to New York again and show me what you got for Sesame Street. And I said, no. And he went, excuse me, what? And I said,
yeah,
no.
I would have done the same.
Yeah. A lot of people are going, Terri, what did you do? But your path is your path. And for me, New York was not a good experience. Being in New York was too noisy, too loud, too congested, just wasn't the best atmosphere for me to do my best work. And this is what I said to him. I said, look, Mr. Henson, I'd love to work with you. Lord knows it's a dream of mine. I can't do it in New York. And he was like, what makes you think you have any kind of career with me if you can't come to New York? And I said, Dave Goles, who plays Gonzo, he lives up north here in California. And Kevin Clash, who did play Elmo, he's in Baltimore. And he went, wow, you've really done your homework. I said, well, I didn't say no without research. It's just, I need to be like them if I'm going to work for you. And he wasn't happy. So he hung up in 1982, 1989, he calls me up again. I'm coming to California. Oh, really? Yeah. And I want to see you. And you need to understand, I'm going to audition you. And if you're not good, I'm going to make it hell for you. And I was like, oh, and he said, yes. So you better have your game face on. You better be ready because I'm coming. Nobody says no to me. So I'm ready to see you. And I'm like, okay, bring it on, But and he said, bring your portfolio, because he had seen a couple of my puppet designs. And at the time that he passed, we were designing a show together, and which never saw the light of day.
I think I might know what series you're referring to. I don't know the name of it, but Ricky Boyd told me that he auditioned for it under Richard Hunt's guidance.
Yeah, well, we did Richard Hunt. What an amazing, the first thing we auditioned for was Muppet 3D theater for Disney, because Henson had sold Muppets to Disney. And so Jim came to the West Coast and he invited all these puppeteers to audition for Muppet 3D theater. Now, one of the challenges for a woman on the West Coast was that if we didn't do a voice, a lot of the times we didn't get part. We could be the most talented, but if we didn't land the voice of that character, we weren't usually cast, which is absolutely silly. But when Jim came to town, he didn't care about that. He auditioned all different kinds of people, all different women, men, everybody got to audition for Jim. The one thing that upset the West Coast was that Jim auditioned puppeteers in groups, the Henson Company. So you went in groups of 7 people and you auditioned with each other. And on the West Coast, we were used to auditioning alone. So we would come in and we would do our audition alone, which meant that you didn't get to see the clever techniques that maybe we came up with. But now when you're in a group, others can observe what you're doing as well as audition with you. And many puppeteers were furious. Many, many, many puppeteers on the West Coast were really ticked at the Henson Company for having us all audition. How dare they? And I was like, well, you got 2 choices. You'd be intimidated by those 6 other people in the room, or you draw a line in the sand and say, I'm going to be the one that's the intimidation factor. And so I went in, and Brian Henson was actually handling the audition. Jim wasn't there. And there was a woman who was my arch rival. She hated me. And of course, there I am in the audition with this woman who really just doesn't like me at all. And so you can say, oh, great, I'm in there with this woman. But you kind of say, hey, all the more reason to just blow the doors off the audition. Right. So we had to do a 60-second talk on something. So I chose Star Wars. I'm very passionate about Star Wars. And I'd say, do you want to see, I thought to myself, do I want to show anger? Because if I want to show anger and irritation, I talk about Phantom Menace and those 3 films, 1, 2, and 3. Those are probably some of the worst films I've ever seen. And I really am passionate about how much I don't like them. So
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I mean, I'll go watch them, but because they're cool. I love Phantom Menace. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and what I had to learn is that I was born in 1957. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Star Wars in 1977 over 183 times. Okay. So at the theater, because there is no streaming, there is no TV, you stood in line and you did this. And I came up with a way I wouldn't have to stand in line. I got caught and showed them what I had been doing. And the manager of the theater was so impressed, he let me get free. So it is, and in George Lucas's book Skywalking, if you have that book and you look on page 3, they actually talk about me and my viewings. I'm in the index and I'm in that book. So
just a quick little question. You kind of skipped when you said when you told the manager of the theater what you had been doing. What exactly was it that you told him? I missed some of that.
Well, he caught me. Okay, I'm sneaking into the theater, which at the time was like, I don't know, $4, $3 you had to pay every time, $6 you had to pay every time, not like today. But I stayed in the theater and I hid in the bathroom and I changed my hair with wigs and stuff. And so on my 67th viewing, he caught me and he called me on the carpet and he said, you've been cheating. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you've been cheating. You know how I found out? The girls changed, but the handbag didn't. And I was like, oh, doggone it.
God.
Why is this so important? And I showed him my sketches and my drawings and the list of the names I had written. And I said, this is what I'm going to do for a living. And I just need to be here. I need to be here and write all this stuff down, sketch this stuff out. This is where I'm going. And he was like, whoa. And I think when you share your passion with people, they get very excited to be on board with you and your passion is. So I was just obsessed with Star Wars. I had a car I named Vader 1. It had the Vader 1 license plates. It breathed. I dressed up as a Wookiee. And then later on, I built a Darth Vader suit with a friend of mine, a Jawa, a rebel fighter. And we stood out in front of the Chinese theater in Hollywood and took $5 a photo for people to take photographs with us in costumes. And then I did my puppet, et cetera, et cetera. So what I need to remember about Phantom Menace and those films is that when people were born and grew up, this was their fascination. Like it impacted them like the original Star Wars impacted me. The difference was with those 3 films that were made very sad, and we won't make it all about Star Wars, we'll talk about Henson, but what happened about those films was that you had a character that was powerful as Darth Maul, and you knew he wasn't going to survive in a fight with Ben Kenobi because Ben Kenobi's in the sequel. That's the only reason he lost, was because the sequels 4, 5, and 6 were already done and there was no Darth Maul, but there was Ben Kenobi. So Darth Maul had to go. And yet we could tell in the movie he was way more powerful, way scarier. The makeup was a little weird, but really scarier. And we knew he wasn't going to survive because 4, 5, and 6 were the ones that followed. And that's what's frustrating. So back to Jim Henson. I do my audition and the girl that doesn't like me leans forward as Jim Henson walks into the room. So I'm first. I do my little bit with my puppet. Jim Henson walks in, sits down. Hello, everybody. And sits down next to his son. And he says, don't mind me. Continue. So she leans out and kind of gives me the yan face because everybody else gets to perform in front of Jim. And I'm done. So 2 through 6 go through. And Jim stands up and they say, thank you very much. We'll be calling you, if we like you. And Jim Henson stands up and says, no, wait. Don't move. And everybody's like, and he says, you, Terri, get up here. You didn't think you were going to get out of this, did you? And I was like, what? And he goes, and Brian says, well, Dad, she already did. He says, I don't care. Get up, Terri. Get over here. And he says, get ready, because you're going to do it again. Go. And so I got to audition twice. So I did a second 60-second riff. And then when everybody left, he said, and I want you to come over here. I want to see your portfolio. So that nya from the girl kind of turned in. I didn't look back at nya her. I just, because Jim had said, if you aren't good, I'm going to give you trouble. And from that, I got to do Muppet 3D theater and work with people like Frank Oz, like Dave Bowles, like all of these wonderful people, like you mentioned. And then I thought once Jim passed that it was over for me. I didn't know if I'd ever get called again. And the next thing I know, I'm programming the Penguins in Muppet 3D theater, and Frank Oz coming over and saying hi to me, and it's glad to have you on the team and stuff like that. So you just never know what's going to happen. And then Dinosaurs is another one that was just huge. And Peter was not a part of this. Peter was West Coast with Alice Deneen and Carmen, who
Are you referring to Peter Linz?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the listeners who don't know, Terri and I talked a little bit about Peter just before I started recording.
Yeah, Peter Linz. And then you had who does Rosita. They all came together on Puzzle Place, which was not a Henson created show. It was brainchild, as I understood it, of Kevin Clash, who did Elmo. But that was where I met a lot of those East Coast puppeteers, was on that show. So and it was a joy to meet these puppeteers and hear about their Sesame Street stories. And I used to love to sit with Carmen, because Rosita was a major benchmark in puppets. And Sesame Street was too, because it created a character that spoke Spanish. And told me all about it. So me being mixed and speaking with someone like that, talking about how important it was to have characters that represent you on TV, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
It's amazing. Speaking of the Puzzle Place and people that you've worked with and got to know from that show, I was wondering if maybe you knew somebody who worked on that show by the name of Don Reardon. Did you interact with him at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. The funny thing about Puzzle Place was that when they originally cast it, I was not a part of it. Mm-hmm. And they cast my arch enemy again, the girl who didn't like me. She was cast in it. Currently, I was also doing Dinosaurs. So I get a call and they say, hey, can you fill in for about 2 weeks? And so I went on the show and I started filling in for about 2 weeks at Noel McNeil, Bear in the Big Blue House.
Yep, Noel was a guest on this show recently.
Sweetheart, really a sweetheart. And his mom, I think her birthday is either one day in front of me, June 20th, or the June 21st, which is how we got to be fans of each other. But Noel and Joe and I got to meet these amazing people who are really good at what they do, and just see a different style of puppetry, a different attitude of puppetry, and it was fascinating. But I was more assistant level, meaning I did hands and I did feet, or I did, and I love being secondary characters and assistants because I think they have more fun. So a lot of times I don't want to be the lead characters. I'd rather be a sideline character that's a little nut, like Crazy Harry, or the old men in the balcony, characters like that are really can kind of be a little nutsy, whereas Kermit has to sort of drive the boat of the series and be these other ones can have more, the side characters have more flexibility in how they can perform and be, because they're goofy and silly and stuff like that. So yeah, the place was great. And they asked me to come and stay, and I did 2 seasons with them. Okay. So that was really nice. It's something that was 2 weeks turned into an entire gig for me, which was very surprising.
Okay.
But,
I actually have never really watched the Puzzle Place, and I'm sorry if that makes me sound kind of stupid, but I've noticed that the Puzzle Place, has become kind of popular. And for our listeners, I was wondering if maybe you'd like to share some of your favorite Puzzle Place moments.
Well, the Puzzle Place was such an interesting series. They wanted to, the idea was that public television, PBS, had really liked the idea of several different types of characters coming together that were diverse. And diversity was the big thing on Puzzle Place. They wanted to show diverse characters, all different characters of color, and puppets are such a great way to illustrate that. And I was originally brought on to assist on one of the main characters and help others if they needed a left arm or whatever done. I would pop in to do that. The thing that's really strange is if you look below what's happening on camera, it's a cluster. You know what I mean? I think being puppeteers and being able to maneuver like you do by looking at monitors and stuff is a real talent. But then they cast me. They decided to cast me as a character, which I thought was really super nice of them. And they cast me as Jody, who was an artist. And so in the final season, before they stopped making them, I played Jody. And she wasn't a huge character. She would come in, here and there. But I loved playing her. She had curly hair and she was an artist like myself. She loved to draw and paint, and it wasn't like in Sesame Street where they are really dealing with a lot bigger bigger stories like Awesome and stuff. It's amazing. It's just amazing how strong shows like that were. But Puzzle Place was very popular because you had all these different characters and we're always doing wild stuff. So my friend Drew Massey was an assistant, and he would always be able to figure out how Puppet can use a pencil. Or in my case, I did a character that could knit or sketch.
Oh, cool.
So your arms are above and you're doing it here and actually not just putting scribbles on paper, but you're actually drawing a picture. And so that's how I think I loved about Puzzle Place, because we really worked hard to create these incidences where if the camera came in close looking at the puppet was actually sketching and doing stuff you could actually see. But that was practicing, So I did a lot of stuff like that. Grandma's hands in a show, Earl Roberts Celebration, the evangelist, the religious evangelist. I did Grandma's hands and I knitted, but I was in the couch. My arms are coming up through here and I'm knitting above my head. And they just thought Grandma was the coolest thing because there was knitting. The lead puppeteer was working her head and I was working her two hands and I was knitting, actually knitting. So people were just like, that puppet's actually knitting, So if you can do that little extra when you're doing your characters, that's what's really fun. When we worked with Jim Henson on Muppet 3D, he's very busy, but we got to work with all of the Muppets. All the Muppets were there except for Frank. He was on another show, but he would call in and check up on everybody. And I remember the things that were really fun about being around people like Jim Henson were that happened off camera, not necessarily on. It was fascinating to watch them work behind the scenes. But I live in California and I live in Hollywood, California. So I see this all the time. And yeah,
you get used to it.
I got to tell you, everybody puts their pants one leg at a time, guys. So the people that I've worked with and been close to, I treat them as a colleague. I don't really go to fanboy often. And I've met quite a few. So Jim, I have a friend named Ron Lucas. And Ron has a puppet show in Vegas. Well, he brought a tiny bicycle to the Disney set. And so a lot of times here, we have time on the set. We have times where you're reading the paper or you're twiddling your thumbs.
I've always heard that that's what Richard Hunt was known for, reading the paper on set.
And Richard was really sweet because Jim asked Richard to teach the puppeteers from the West Coast and just through our off time. And again, the puppeteers on the West Coast were like, really? Are you kidding me? What? And I was just happy I didn't think it was an insult to me as a puppeteer to get to work with another puppeteer and maybe they look at my work and give me pointers. You know, as a sculptor, I have created rides and attractions you can ride on, sit on, photograph all over the world, including Dragon's Lair Paris that has a 35-foot fully articulated dragon, my design. But I'm not going to sit there and look at you at someone who's half my age and say, you can't teach me anything because you're only 20. And sometimes in a person's mind who's older, that can be why is my boss 20 years old? You know, he or she possibly teach me. And it's amazing what y'all can teach me. This is the thing that is so surprising about youth. Youth never ceases to amaze me. So these puppeteers, it wasn't that Richard was so young, but they thought it was very arrogant. Many thought that it was arrogant of Jim Henson Company to think they needed to teach us anything. We have been doing so much. What are you thinking? But I just looked at Richard and I said, hey, a chance to play with puppets, I'll do it. And I really enjoyed it, but many refused. Many just wouldn't. No, thank you. Fine. Okay. No, thank you. So don't close that door because you never know what they're going to show you, you know? And so Ron Lucas has got this little bike, like people riding a circus. The wheels are about, 9 inches or 10 inches across, and you're sitting on top of it all pedaling along. And Jim came around, break, and Jim Henson walks over and he sees this bike and he goes, whose bike is this? And Ron, all excited, well, Mr. Henson, it's my bike. And Jim says, well, hey, can I try it? And Ron is like looking back at us all happy. Yes, Mr. Jim Henson, ride my bike, And so Jim gets on it and he starts pedaling all over the back. We're because it's a huge soundstage. So a portion is being filmed, and in the back is where we're all being, like a green room where we're hanging out, reading the paper, all that stuff. And Jim is riding on this bike. Well, Jim loses control and crashes into an off-camera flat or something. Just and the producer goes, what? And he comes around the corner and he is so mad. He is like, I've had it with you puppeteers. What now? And they're just like, what now? What was that? What are you doing now? Because I've had it. And Jim kind of walks up and says, sorry, because he sounds just like Kermit the Frog. Sorry, it was me. And then, oh, Mr. Henson. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Is everything all right? And Jim said, I'm sorry. I shouldn't probably should have tried the bike when you weren't filming. But it was just seriously funny. So we're kids. People who are puppeteers are, I think, giant kids. And that's what makes it so special.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about you being a Disney Imagineer, because that's probably what you're best known for. And you mentioned some of your contributions, like the dragon, for example. What were some of your other contributions to the Disney theme parks?
Well, let's talk first about what it takes to be an Imagineer. Number one, you gotta have, everybody goes, you gotta have a thick skin. What does it actually mean? It means that you're going to be rejected. I have enough rejection letters with this ridiculous mouse with a wand and a hat, Mickey Mouse and his wand and his star hat and his sorcerer's apprentice outfit, going, you're not worthy. Never mind. No, thank you.
I'm trying now to picture Mickey Mouse saying that.
Get back. We don't like you. Not for us. The door's not opening for you. You don't get a key. God. And I was like, every letter, I was like, I am getting so upset with this mouse. And I had so many rejection letters I could wallpaper my home. And I said to everyone, you just say to yourself, how bad do you want it? And don't let those rejection letters make it stop. So I put it, I think that's my, 1,000th rejection letter, whatever it was. I said to myself, and I'm going to just put this over on the side for a little bit. I'm going to zen out. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to relax. and I'm going to go do something else. I had a friend, a very talented friend, who ran a studio where you built the walk around characters like Charlie Tuna, Smokey the Bear, McGruff the Crime Dog, Small Soldiers I built. Universal had a Secret of Nim show. I helped build those characters. And I built the King Kong, not just me, but with a team of people. And I did this for a while, and I'm in this little studio sculpting something. And a guy walks in and he says, Terri. I said, hey, how are you doing? He says, I'm good. I'm over here painting sets for Disney. What are you doing? And I said, I'm waiting for Disney to get a clue. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, oh, they just keep rejecting me. And I know they need me over there. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, I will, we really need people. I'm going to go over and put your name in. And and so the next thing I called from Disney, and this guy sees my portfolio and he's flipping through it and holy heck, kid, where the hell you been? And I said, stupid me, I was knocking at the front door. I didn't know I was supposed to go in the back. But even when he saw it and fell in love with my work, there were 8 more interviews over 3 months. So what does this mean? Disney has trouble making a decision. And I went in and they loved my work and I thought, oh, I got this. And then it just kept drawing out and drawing out. So it's November 1987 and I'm like, I really need to work, but the minute I take a job, many of you like this, you got the dream job right there and it's percolating, but you just don't know if that pot's going to get done. And you say to yourself, but I don't want to take another job because as soon as this one comes through, I'm out of here. I'm doing that one. I work too hard. I'm doing that one. And God smiles on you. And I got a call from Dolly Parton.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not the Dolly Parton, but Dolly Parton's representatives. And he said, Terri, you're a puppeteer. I said, yes, I am. He says, we need you for Dolly Parton's Christmas special, 2 weeks. You want to come and do it? And I said, that's perfect. It's going to be 2 weeks. It's close to the holidays. Disney's not hired during the holidays. This is perfect. I can get enough enough money together so that I can wait for Disney to get a clue. And Disney called me the next day and they said, we have one more interview. And I was like, really? And they put it smack dab, James, in the middle of my shoot with Dolly Parton. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And they're like, what do you mean you can't do it? And I said, look, I can't do it because I just took Dolly Parton's show. And honestly, guys, if you can't make up your mind from the 9 interviews, what is up? And they said, well, if you can't make this 10th, you're out of the running. And I lost it. I just exploded. I started screaming at them, telling them they were crazy, told them they lived in Fantasyland. You people live in a world that's not even real. You know, you need a reality check. This is not the way people work in the film industry. This is not how we do it. I had been 10, 15 film industry. This is not the way this works, guys. I hung up. 3 days later, they called me with an offer. So the key to this is, I guess you get angry with them because all of a sudden now I got hiring. I said, well, if I knew getting angry with you would have made this shorter, I would have done it after the 2nd interview, you know, not the 10th. So I was brought on to do Big Thunder Paris. That was the new big land, was Paris Disneyland, which is now Disneyland Paris. It was Euro Disney. Then it was Paris Disneyland. Now it's Disneyland Paris. You know, what's in a name? But this was the big launch. Had no other parks outside of the US. This was the first time Disney was going outside to create a park, and I got to be part of it. And the first thing I worked on was Big Thunder Mountain, which is the best Big Thunder Mountain, not because I was a part of it, but because you board it on the mainland, you go under the water and you come up on an island. It is an amazing attraction. It's beautiful. And it was me and another guy named Vasile and Jeff Burke, who was our show producer, and we would get together and figure out what the mountain looked like. Well, after that, I noticed that there was this concept art. And I said, what's that? They said, it's a hub. I said, a hub. They said, yeah, like, Walt and Mickey is the center. That's the hub. All roads lead to the rest of the park. I said, well, it's a dragon. I go, that's a dragon. I said, so what's the dragon going to do? And they go, nothing. Oh, wait a minute. The dragon's doing nothing? They go, nothing. What? Did you say nothing? It's not going to be alive? And they go, no. And I'm like, what do you mean? So I lose it. I just lose it. I go, what do you think we are? We're not Magic Mountain. We're not Universal. We're Disney. Disney does not do it like this. This is not the way Disney works. So my supervisor says, you can't tell me. You have to go to the supervisor. The one who's creating all of Paris. You need to talk to him. Who is that? Tony Baxter. Well, who's Tony Baxter? He's a senior VP. He's the one doing Paris. Okay. Let's call him. Get him down here. They go, you just don't get him down here, Terry. You can't just, he's the senior VP. You get what I'm saying? You can't just call him up. So I'll go there then. Call him up and tell him I'm coming, because we can't have this. Okay, this is what I'm talking about when your passion just takes you over. You start to do really weird things. Well, this was very weird. Disney did not know what to make of me whatsoever. And finally, my supervisor said, if you can keep your talk to 20 minutes, I'll see if Tony will come and see you. And he came and he saw me. And when I saw him, he had an entourage, several people all around him. He sat down. I was dressed in my smock that I had illustrated a dragon on it. And I had a board ready to go. And I was standing like in the Olympics, and is ready for the gun to go off. I was standing in that position. And I said, Tony Baxter. And he said, yeah. And he said, are you Terri Hardin? And I said, yes. And I said, say go. And he said, what? And I said, say go. And he said, go. And I was like this. Okay, this is about the dragon. We can't have the dragon. It can't be a statue, because if it's a statue, that is ridiculous. We're not Disney. We're not Universal. We're not Magic Mountain. We are Disney, and Disney doesn't do that. Disney does magic. Disney creates things. And Tony says, wait, whoa. And I'm like, Tony, 20 minutes, dude. Crabbing my style. And he started to laugh. He just started laughing. And he said, if I give you more time, will you walk me through? So long story short, I walked him through. They don't give a single woman, they do not give a woman an entire attraction. This is because if you're going over to other countries, women may or may not be that respected in the field. And that is my job on field. So they told me I couldn't go. But I did the entire Dragon's Lair, and worked out the dragon's animation, all of it, created the show, the water, what you're going to see when you come in, how the dragon responds and reacts, everything. It is my favorite thing because I'm such a dragon person. So people write to me and they say, oh my God, dragon is amazing. And the reason it is because dragons are my thing. I love dragons. And if you're in there painting and doing something, creating an attraction, I never created an attraction before. But Tony said, I want you to do it. I said, okay, I'll do it. And it is the best castle in all the parks because there's a dragon that's underneath and you can watch it roar and growl. Other things, if you've been to Walt Disney World, there's a boat that you step into. We don't know for how much longer, but for Splash Mountain, and I designed the texture on the exterior of that boat and also the rabbit that rides on the front. And then here in Los Angeles, if they haven't replaced him in Anaheim, I did Brer Fox. I sculpted a Brer Fox. That was my audition for sculpting.
I love Splash Mountain. I really do.
Me too. It was just and the nice thing about being an Imagineer is there's not a lot of egos there. It's a lot of high-end, supercalifragilistic, magical artists, and you're on fire, man. The time goes by. Everything.
It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. The second you said supercalifragilistic, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, and that's it. Halloween, the place would shut down, and everyone would create a costume or an outfit, and we'd come together at Imagineering and compete and stuff. It was just so much fun. And Tony Baxter tells me I was there for the best time. Now I'm known as the Come Here, Get Away Imagineer, which means that I have my own company, Terri Hardin Designs, Inc., And when Disney invited me to be, this is several years ago, invited me to be an Imagineer, they told me I had to dissolve my company. And that wasn't an option for me. I said, I can't dissolve my company. And so I said, how can I be of service to you? And they said, well, if you don't dissolve your company, you can't work for us. I said, well, you called me for a reason. You need my speed because I'm really fast. So I said, you need my speed. Let me help you. But how is it that you can get what you want and I can get what I want? That's a very good lesson for anyone who's out there, that if you just want to work for Disney under their umbrella, under their rules, yay for you. But I was someone who had this company that was starting to pick up doing prototypes and collectibles, and I just didn't want to give it up. And so what they did was they made me an independent contractor known as come here, get away, Imagineer, which means, Terri, we have a deadline. Come here, we have a deadline. Can you help us finish this? And I might work 2 weeks and help you finish it. And then they'd go, okay, back in the box. You're done, push.
Funny.
And I love it. I think it's just so much fun. And the nice thing is you keep your eyes open. I did Captain EO with Michael Jackson. That was really fun. I played Idie and Odie, the two bird character, very heavy puppet. I think they cast me because I could lift it and perform it. It was a very, very weighty puppet, but nice puppet. And right alongside Michael Jackson, I really had some good experiences with him. Really enjoyed being around him and understanding what fame can, fame was hard on him. He was kind of a gentle soul. So it many actors will tell you they love the work, but the fame part is a part of it that they aren't really that excited about. I guess some get real excited about it, but others are kind of like,
Speaking of hard and difficult puppetry, like what you were talking about with some of the Disney shows, and we were talking earlier about Kevin Clash, I have a little surprise.
Oh boy!
So you assisted Kevin on Baby Sinclair on Dinosaurs. And so a while ago, a couple of years ago, I get this call from my friend Raquel. Actually, on that note, to Raquel and so many other of my closest friends, happy National Best Friends Day. That's what today, June 8th, is. I know I've already posted on social media about it already, and I actually had a really good laugh with my two closest friends, Sean and Rachel. If any of you regular listeners watch my YouTube channel regularly, then you know who they are. Sean lives overseas. Rachel I've known my entire life. Sean and I were talking about wanting to go to Disney World. Rachel, get a passport so that you can come with us.
Yeah. And you should always have it. Get the passport and always have your passport, because you never know when someone's going to call you and say, hey, I got this job, or could you come out to Nova Scotia? And I just my watch and go, yeah, let me see what flights are, you know what I mean? So you always want to make sure that passport is ready. So how wonderful.
Yeah. Rachel, listen to Terri.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Get that for girlfriend, because that's going to be a lot of fun. The neat thing about Walt Disney World is that they have these amazing magic bands, and you tap and the little mouse lights up. It's like, it's a whole city, Walt went over there in 1971 to create a utopia he could not build in California, because we have always been about prime real estate. So we didn't have a lot of places for him to build. So Disneyland is very intimate. And it's people go and they go, you can see it in a day. Yes, but it is where Walt walked. So come see where Walt walked in Anaheim, California. But in Walt Disney World, you get to see you get to see sort of what Walt's dream was. He was never able to see it.
Right.
He started it, but he died before he could see it. And how exciting for Walt Disney to be able to do a place like Walt Disney World. So you go there and you can just envelop yourself in everything Disney, from Animal Kingdom to Epcot to the Magic Kingdom, and just a blast. So yeah, get that passport, youngster.
Anyway, so my friend, a couple of years ago, I got this call from my friend Raquel, and I'm thinking to myself, Raquel, if you're listening, not to be rude, but I was thinking to myself, why is she calling me? I just had lunch with her yesterday. So, and she's like, James, we're cleaning out our house, and we found these boxes of old toys. And I know that you like vintage things. Like I'm a bit of a, obviously with a show called Nostalgia Talk, I'm a very retro kind of person. This was, of course, before Nostalgia Talk. And she was like, do you maybe want them? And I was like, sure. And so she brings them over. It's 2 boxes of these old school toys, like McDonald's Happy Meal toys, generic stuff that maybe came in toy sets or something. And one of them, I know that none of the listeners can see, but one of them was Baby Sinclair.
Yeah. And you got the one that, is that the one that, yeah, that does the pot? Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I'll give the listeners a little verbal tutorial of it. A lot of you guys have said you wanted to see more Nostalgia Talk videos where I show off toys. Maybe I'll do one of this. But there's a little cord attached to the baby that connects to something. And if you push that cord, the head and the hands actually move, so it looks like Baby Sinclair is saying, not the mama, not the mama, not the mama, not the mama.
More times than Earl wanted to admit to.
I mean, Raquel, I don't even know if you've seen Dinosaurs, but that's what that thing does. I'm just going to let you in on that right now. But Dinosaurs is, I've talked to Stuart Pankin and Alan Troutman and Ricky Boyd about that show. And actually, Alan was the first guest I had back on after Christmas, and Dinosaurs was just going to be coming on Disney Plus like weeks after. And I had forgotten that when I landed him. And then I was like, this would be good promotion for Dinosaurs coming to Disney Plus. So first thing in the morning that day, I go to Disney Plus and I was like, you know what? I've never actually sat down and watched Dinosaurs. You know what? I'm going to give this a chance. So I sat down and watched it. My mom is getting ready for work, going back and forth, and she sees Baby Sinclair hitting Earl with the pan going, not the mama, not the mama. And my mom's like, what is this? And I said, oh, it's called Dinosaurs. And she keeps looking at the somewhat slapstick humor in it and some of the jabs that everyone was taking with each other. And she's like, I cannot believe that this is a show that people actually watched.
And loved. And absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. That people just 5 strong seasons. It still would have been going on, except for that Disney said it was too expensive to continue to produce, was the story. So that's too bad, because it was very, very popular. It was in a thing called TGI Fridays. And
yes, I've heard of that.
Many of us, like Alan Troutman, myself, Bruce Lanoyle, we were always auditioning for pilots, and we did tons of pilots, but we get all excited because people go, this is the one, you're going to have it. And they'd get you all set up, and then it would die on the vine. And Dinosaurs came out, and it actually not only launched, but was a #1 show for 5 seasons. It was just a dream come true for all of us to be a part of that. Yeah.
Was Baby Sinclair a very heavy puppet?
Oh yeah.
Because I'm noticing that because Kevin Clash, who played Baby Sinclair, you know, you're hearing a lot of Elmo in Baby Sinclair. And for any of the listeners who don't know, Kevin played Elmo for about 25 years. And the Elmo puppet I've never actually been anywhere near it, but the Elmo puppet looks relatively lighter. And then you look at that baby puppet, because that is a big puppet.
That is a very big puppet. And I'm just looking to see if I can find a photo of him so you can see what he looks like with the 3 of us, which is the team Baby Sinclair was John Kennedy, myself, and Kevin Clash. And knowing Kevin, like I do, I probably should say Kevin Clash, John Kennedy, and myself is probably the way I should be introducing him. But I have to say that, let's see if I can just find it in here. Let's look at her albums. Let's see if I can find it. Ghostbusters has it. Okay, but doesn't have Dune. Zoom. Let's go to all albums, see if I can find it. But it was really something, because it's a very, 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 very large puppet. 70 pounds it weighed. So 70 pounds to, so it was great that the baby was in a high chair or sitting a good deal of time. He would, that was the one thing that you would say to yourself was, here it is, here you go. So you can see the size of it compared to
oh my God, that's bigger than I thought. Like,
yeah,
like
way bigger than Kevin's head.
God. There's like pictures on the internet of a lot of the Muppet performers with their characters like kind of on their shoulder or something. I can imagine that if Kevin probably put that puppet on his shoulder, it would probably squish him to death.
Well, the thing that was amazing about Kevin, and Kevin, an amazing performer, all of the people that were on this show were amazing, but what blew me away about Kevin was that, and I was Baby's arms, so that's what I did. John Kennedy did eyes and brows. So Team Baby, eyes and brows were John, and then Kevin was the head and neck and body, and then I was the arms. And we had mechanical arms, which had extensions off. I would go this and the baby could crawl, or I was actually inside the arms and performing them live, like in a Bunsen Honeydew, only a heck of a lot heavier creature. So this baby was heavy. So there is a sequence, a dinosaur show. I cannot remember, forgive me not remembering the name, but a little animal steals baby's cookies. And he puts on goggles and he blows up because he sees the little character escape under in a hole in the wall, and he blows up the wall and he starts to crawl because he's going to get that cookie back. He's going to get that cookie back. And so he starts to crawl. So Kevin had this puppet over his head and he was moving it like this, and his hand was below to support the body. 70 pounds as we walked in a narrow place, and he's doing like this, and I'm behind him with arms. So the baby is actually looking like he's crawling, but Kevin's got away the baby on him, 70 pounds, and he's doing the crawling and the whole thing. And he over and over and over, we were doing this thing. It was amazing. It was just amazing. And that's when I realized that he was probably one of the most physically strong puppeteers I had seen in a while. And it was a great character to be a part of. It was the character to be a part of. If you wanted to be with a character that was just going to make life so wonderful for you, Baby was it. And when they cast me, they didn't originally cast me on Team Baby. I was going to play Charlene. I was going to be face articulation for Charlene.
Wow.
But the girl inside got too claustrophobic, and she had trouble doing the character. So when the Hensons took a look at it, they decided to replace both puppeteer and suit performer, which made me very sad because I thought I was going to be fired, to be honest with you, James. I thought they were going to go, okay, because she was, but me, they said, no, we're not going to fire you. We're going to put you on a different team. And Misha Sisti, who ended up playing Charlene, said, could I use Terri? I know we'll be great together. But they pulled in Bruce Lenoyle. And he said, Terri, you're going to go with Kevin Clash on Team Baby Sinclair. And I was like, okay. And I had a blast. I really, really loved being a part of that character. And you know, people talk about, you know, we're shooting the show and how you had to be aware of where tails were going to be because they were dinosaurs. Right. So it wasn't like actors moving around. You had to worry about, okay, they're going to move and they're going to turn on camera, but they got these tails. So it was fabulous. It was just a very exciting time. Yeah.
So to basically narrow it down, you were the one that was making Baby go, not the mama, like physically, because you were controlling the arms.
Yes. And here's the thing that is so crazy, James, is that Disney calls up Henson and says, we want to put Baby in the CEO's chair. And at that time, that was Michael Eisner for an anniversary. I think it was the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. And they said, we're Baby in that chair. And Michael Eisner's going to come in and he's going to go, Baby, what are you doing? And Baby's going to go, number one, number 2.
Oh
And
God!
Michael Eisner is going to go, what? You know,
Michael Eisner.
So this was what it was going to be. And Kevin wasn't available. So Brian was going to be the baby. He was going to be the lead on Baby because Kevin had another gig. And it was probably Sesame or something, couldn't get back. But whatever it was, he was unavailable. So Brian was going to do it. Kevin was going to loop it later, which means he was going to put the voice in after. Right. And so we go down to the studios, and all the way there, Brian is like, now, Terri, behave yourself. This is the CEO of Disney. Well, I knew. And as an Imagineer, was not really a big fan because he kept taking from our Paris budget to pay for film. So there were a lot of Imagineers who weren't really big fans of Mr. Eisner. And so there we are on set, and all of these people who are employees of Michael Eisner come with these really soft baby bottles, like inflatable baby bottles. Here's the baby bottle you should hit him with, because I'm going to hit him in the head with the baby bottle and say, wise up. Okay. God. And they're showing all these bottles, and very calmly says, the baby has a particular bottle. This is Baby's bottle. And it was the one where the dinosaurs, when Baby eats it, the dinosaur goes, great effect. But anyway, he says, we got to use the actual bottle. Baby won't use another bottle. And so they look at me and they go, well, he is our CEO. You better be careful. I'm kind of like, well, maybe. And Brian goes, Terri, don't you dare. Because puppeteers are crazy and twisted and stinkers. We're children. And the reason we are is because we spend most of our time under the floor, inside couches, inside boxes, not on top. And so I wind up, after Baby does his little bit, then Michael Eisner comes in close and he says something, and then the line is, bang, wise up. So I hit him in the head, bang, wise up. And so I hit him, poof, wise up. And Michael Eisner, now the chair is like this. I've got my arms through Baby, and my head is being blocked by the back of the chair. So Baby's sitting in the chair is blocking me, pressed up against behind the chair, and Brian is coming up from underneath. So there I am, and John's off camera doing the eyes. So crack, and Michael leans back behind the chair, and he sees me, and he says, hey, Terri, I really would really appreciate it if you hit me harder.
He didn't care.
He said, I'm not that good of an actor, and if you're too gentle, I can't react properly. So I'm a big boy. Go ahead and hit me. And I was like, well,
that's funny, because when Ricky Boyd was on here, he was talking about being in the scene with Michael Eisner, and they were said, don't hurt him, basically.
Yeah. And I revved up my arm and I kissed it. First I kissed it, then I revved up my arm and I hit him as I could. Crack! And he flew back. He fell back off camera. And while rubbing his head, the guys in the sound booth said, we're not going to need to Foley that.
Yeah, because you can hear it clearly. Oh my God.
I went back to Imagineering and I said, guys, you got to see the scene with Baby and Michael Eisner, because Baby does something you're going to love. And to this day, if they saw that, they're all like, oh, that was, because I said, that's real. That's not fake. That's all real. I really got to clock him. And that was so Baby gave us lots of opportunities that maybe others didn't necessarily get to do. And then Ricky Boyd and I were always playing, because when we weren't on camera, which Baby was on camera an awful lot, but when I wasn't on camera, I would do secondary characters. So there's characters where I'm in the classroom where I'm just a dinosaur arm, or I was someone who knew how to do marionettes. So there's one where there's a sexual harassment.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and the one with the strings, I'm up in the rafters performing the strings while the puppeteers are down below doing the hand puppets. So it was a lot of fun, because you're just like a theater ensemble. You're wearing all kinds of hats, doing all kinds of fun stuff. And it was a joy to be a part of. And wow, who would have thought, James and everyone out there, that Disney Plus was going to dig up that dinosaur body and redo that show and show
Well,
that show.
I'm gonna give you this. I'm now realizing something. So when you said that Kevin Clash was unavailable to perform Baby for the show, all I'm hearing right now is we're gonna need another Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of we're gonna need another Timmy.
Exactly. And switched at birth was Steve Whitmire and Kevin when there were two babies.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Sometimes it was Steve. So it was amazing. I didn't get to do a lot of other characters, but I got to do them whenever Baby wasn't on, and Kevin would go rest and I would play a lot of because I had been working so hard to be on a hit show that when I finally was there, I just wanted to do everything. You know, if you need me to help, just, you want me to be an arm or work some eyes or, do a background character, whatever you need, I'm there, because I logged in more hours than anybody else on the show. And that was because some people had things they had to do. And one of the people on the show was expecting their first child. So when they could cut him loose, I'd say, I'll stay and do the assistant stuff that he would usually do, because he wanted to get home to his wife, because they were, she was pregnant with their first child. They didn't know what that was going to take. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And then the Beretta brothers did a countdown to the show.
Yes, actually, when that happened, like the first week, it was when Alan came on, and I watched that live, and all I was thinking of was, Alan, I'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Alan was going to be coming on this show.
Yeah, and they are just so sweet. And I made gifts for them. I made mugs with their characters on them, and then they showed their watches, which I had done these watches. I had illustrated and created watches with their characters on them for Christmas and holidays. And Bill and his brother Gene both still had the watch. So they're like, hey, check it out. And I was like, you still have it. But we had the mugs, and we had a board where all the mugs hooked up in the soundstage, and someone came in and stole them. So they came in and just lifted them right off of our mugs are gone. And it was like,
the mugs got mugged.
Yeah, the mugs got mugged. So, and they said that. They were like, but you thought you were pretty safe on a soundstage. But if something's cool and they like it enough, so it was just that was a great show to be a part of. Yeah.
And if any of you listeners want a little throwback in time to Dinosaurs, just click the corner of the video for the Beretta brothers talking about Dinosaurs with the cast recently for the Disney Plus countdown. So before we wrap it up with some fan questions, I would like to ask you about a Disney movie from my childhood, and one that I mentioned in the intro, one that I actually saw in the theater, and my family really does like it, The Country Bears, where you were the face puppeteer for Trixie.
And Big Al.
So, oh, really? For Big Al?
I hit the trifecta on that movie. Oh my gosh, I got to play two characters.
Wow. Well, the question that I have about The Country Bears is because Trixie was in a scene with one of the most legendary musicians in the world and one of my very favorites. Did you get to meet Don Henley?
You betcha.
Nice.
You betcha. And Bonnie Raitt.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't listen to Bonnie Raitt that much, but I love Don Henley. And speaking of Don Henley, for the listeners, as you know, every Friday on the Nostalgia Talk Facebook page, link in the description, I always do these things called the Friday song. Guess what this week's Friday song is?
Oh my goodness. Is it Hotel California?
Well, I won't say the exact song. You'll all have to find out on Friday, but
you have to tune in.
It's a Don Henley song, I'll say.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if some of you guys might not know who Don Henley is, but Don Henley was one of the two lead singers of the band The Eagles. And my grandfather, he got me into The Eagles, and I can't stop listening to them. They're such a cool band.
Oh, it's great music. And the thing that's so interesting about the Country Bears is it's a who's who in the music industry. And we met all of them. And that was also, we were filming, was it before I know we were filming after the World Trade Centers came down in New York. So Queen Latifah was trying to get out of New York. She was on her way to LA to shoot this with us, and she barely got out.
Oh God.
So it was an amazing time of unity as a country, and then we're in the Country Bears, and it was just an amazing film to be a part of. And Peter Hastings, the director, something for you and your movie that you loved, and I'm a real fan of this movie as well. I think they were going to do it one way, then they got nervous because people started bad mouthing it on the internet before they even saw it, which is really
it did
not
get
good.
a lot of bad reviews, but it's a very good movie. And I remember,
oh, it's so fun.
And I remember
So
showing it to.
fun.
I remember watching it. I brought it with me to school once to show to my friends in music class because I had asked if I could show it, and they said, "Yeah, sure." And they cracked up. And my friend's favorite scene was the car wash.
Yeah, the car wash is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's
oh
over
my
by
God, your hair, my hair. What was your mustache? A fake?
And that car wash is right down the street from me. So it was
oh
really
my God.
all I had to do was walk over to that car wash. It was like, oh, I just walked over. It was hilarious. The song between Trixie, the big goal between Trixie and Tennessee when they sing with the voices of Bunny Raitt and Don Henley, was that they were going to do a montage where Trixie and Tennessee are kind of leaping through fields of grass, and she's got a scarf and all this. And Julianne Busher, myself, Jody, and Denise, we all went, blah! And our mission was, when we were rehearsing, is to be so compelling in that scene emotionally that they would not cut from that, because they didn't believe the puppets could emote. And we, four of us, worked so hard to get it to do what it did. And one of my favorite actors is Christopher Walken. So oh no, Country Bear Hall.
oh yeah, like he's just pretending that it's such a travesty. He's like, okay, I'm bored, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull out these little toy replicas of Country Bear Hall that I have and destroy them. So it's like, oh no! A second later, oh no, crushed Country Bear Hall has been crushed.
It's genius. And we had filmed the Tennessee and Trixie, Don Henley and Bonnie came to see it actually film it.
Right, because I remember their little exchange. It's like, oh, they're really good, are they? And Don Henley says, yeah, better than the Eagles.
Yeah, and Bonnie was so warm and outgoing, and Don was kind of standoffish. And a memo had gone through.
Yeah, that's what I know. That's what I've heard about him.
Don't approach him. Don't approach him. Now, it could be because he's shy. So we're not dissing you here, Don. We're just saying, here's the situation. Well, when Bonnie heard, she came back because she wanted to see how the pups worked. So she's standing right next to me, and she is like, tell me about it. Tell me about it. So I'm telling her about it. And then I said, you know, Bonnie, we got this memo. Julie and I got this memo. I'd really like to get a picture with you and Don, because we do these characters, but it told us not to approve Don Henley. That's ridiculous. And she walked over like a teacher or a parent, grabbed him by the ear, and she like drug him to the back. You're not going to be that way against these people. Work hard back here. You're going to take a picture. And he's like, okay. She's like, look good. You know, she was just so funny and such a lovely person. And it was one of the highlights of us. It was Trixie's Cinderella day, because she was a blonde bear. And anytime we did any kind of motion that took away from all the brown bears, they would stop and say less to us. And we were like, what do we blink? Because she's going to look dead. So Denise and I had to figure out how to make Trixie look alive without stealing focus of the four bears, because they had made her this blonde bear. Big Al, on the other hand, was the character I wanted to do. I did get to yodel. I did get to sing Blood on the Saddle, but it was cut from the film. And I can't to this day understand why they cut the biggest part. You know, people go to Country Bears to hear Blood on the Saddle. So a lot of Disney people were like, hey, where is that song? But it still is a very cute, fun film. And there's so many musicians that, like you said, that you know and love. I got to meet Queen Latifah. I was a huge fan of Queen Latifah.
She's awesome.
Oh my gosh, getting to meet her and it was just wonderful to work with these people. And Christopher Walken, you know, after we did that scene, is in those silk shorts and those bunny slippers, right? You remember? And
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
absolutely.
walking with me to shoot that Country Bear Hall scene, and he said, Terri, I just saw the performance that you guys did with Trixie in Tennessee, and it just brought tears to my eyes. You guys just,
Oh yeah,
you
and that
really
ending, and that ending song, "Straight to the Heart of Love," like that's one of my favorite
beautiful.
numbers in the whole movie.
And if you slow it down, you don't recognize these people. But Peter Hastings was saying that for that big sequence at the end, he was having trouble getting extras. And the extras we got, they weren't really taking the movie that seriously. And so Peter was getting really frustrated. I don't want to go to these places that hire extras. I want people who care about this movie in that audience. So I said, let me just broadcast it out. Let me send an email. Because I have collectors that collect my small collectibles. You go to terrihardin.com, look at the online store, you can see what I've got.
Link in the description.
Yeah, but this, I made an announcement to all my friends and fans and said, who wants to go to Country Bear Hall? This had 2 bonuses for a Disney person. You cannot get on the Disney Ranch unless you're shooting a movie. And the Disney Ranch is where Spin Marty and nostalgic Disney stuff happen, but you cannot tour that ranch unless you're shooting a film. So I wrote to all my friends and said, here's your opportunity to walk the ranch. Come do a final scene of Country Hall. And I was responsible about 50 to 80 people that I got in touch with the production. And when they came out to set, we had the ADs, assistant directors, and all that come over to me and say, these are the nicest people we have ever experienced. And the third AD said, you know what they did when I told them they were gonna, that I was gonna hand out a voucher for their pay? They all went, we get paid? So they were just really, so when you slow it down, part of the reason that movie did really well was it was half those people in the audience bought several copies because they can slow it down and see themselves in that final sequence where they're all packed inside the hall for the big finale. And it was a great movie. It was a really fun movie to be a part of.
Nice.
I've gotten all the people in it, but it's a really good one to love. I love it too. And the soundtrack is off the chain. Just such a great soundtrack. So yeah, it's a good one.
All right, final question here. This is a fan question from Robert Wallace, and Robert wants to know, going back to the topic of a puzzle place, what was it like to have the puzzle place characters in the video Kids for Character?
Oh my goodness. Well, now this is the thing. That show became so, what's the word? Iconic, maybe. And because it had all different kind of diversity, we were doing a lot of shows like this. And this was extremely special to get together with other organizations and groups of people that wanted to promote diversity in everything that we do. Just, you know, if you look at movies from the past, a lot of the people are, you know, white people. And that doesn't mean that you get angry at white people. It's just the way it was. And so now so many, and that was Puzzle Place. People would reach out to us and have us do it. And it was so much fun, especially if we got to go places and do them live, because then you get to meet a lot of the young people for whatever reason are inspired because your puppet is sitting right opposite these young kids and they look the same. Like Jody, I remember sitting opposite a little curly-haired girl and talking about how to work with your hair because the curly hair could be a real. So yeah, organizations like that was again what I call a little bonus. You know, that was a super bonus. So much fun. So just great show. I wish we were still doing it. I wish we were still doing it.
Well, Terri, thank you so much for joining me on Nostalgia Talk.
Thank you, James. This was so much fun.
I had a good time learning and chatting with you as well. A lot of my family members, my grandfather and my dad are both in construction, so they were so my grandfather was like, "Ooh, I think this will be interesting hearing from an Imagineer, you know, somebody who contributes designs and stuff like that. And of course, and it's like what my my aunt had said. Like I was talking to a man named Lewis Henry Mitchell, who's a creative director of character design at Sesame Street. And
yes, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, and my aunt was like, "Well, that's interesting that you've got all these interesting people." And I said, "Yeah." And just moments before talking to Lewis, I got Paul Rudolph, who's Sesame Street's vocal director, and she's like,
"Yeah."
And she said, "I think that'll be interesting because not a lot of people would know that Sesame Street had a vocal director." So
it's amazing.
Yeah. So hopefully a lot of you listeners learned something and have learned something from all of these nostalgia talks. So Terri, thanks again for coming.
Mm-hmm. You are very welcome. Thank you for having me. Anytime you want to revisit it, you have my number, now family. So just reach out, my friend. James, you're in the club now.
All right. And to the listeners, I will see you next time on Nostalgia Talk later this week. Peace.